Hey, good morning and welcome to Breakthrough Walls. I'm Ken Walls and I'm your host. And if you can't tell, I got some new glasses. Thank you to Professional Eye Care and Dr. Doug McCloy. You guys are awesome. So listen, I have had over 130 guests on this show, some absolutely amazing people. And recently, somebody reached out to me and said, dude, you have got to have this guy on the show. And after hearing his story, I completely and totally agree. So I want everybody to, number one, share this out because I promise you there's somebody that needs to hear this story that you know. And number two, thank you for sharing this out. And number three, I want to welcome Russ Ward to the show. Russ, welcome to the show.
Hi. How's it going today?
It's going great, man. It's going great. I'm really excited to have you share your story because, dude, look, I created this show to help people have a breakthrough in life, right? Because we all get stuck. I've been stuck, man. I've been stuck a lot. And, you know, I think that you've been stuck and you overcame your stuckness, if that's a word. But you overcame it and dude, you're a badass now. And I just love that, man. And so let's start with telling everybody, where you were born and raised.
Yeah, so I was born and raised here in Pittsburgh. I live here now, and I grew up in Pittsburgh. I'm a huge Steelers fan. I guess you're not anymore.
I am. Ugh.
I left and joined the Navy. I was away from Pittsburgh for about 10 years, and I came back. My grandfather got sick. My grandfather was like my dad growing up. When I was a little kid, my dad took off, never saw him again. My mom was kind of like, just one of those kind of moms. So I kind of relied on my grandfather, and It really came to a point where I was at a crossroads in the Navy where I was selected for a really cool program to do intel analysis at the National Security Agency for the rest of my career. But if I would have taken that job, I would have never seen my grandfather alive again. So I actually went to the place to reenlist and take this big bonus and go to DC and work for the rest of my career. And then right as I was on the way there, my brother called and said my grandfather had cancer.
Oh.
And it just so happened that the girl that was going to sign me up, she was at lunch, and it all just kind of worked together that I was going home.
Let's back up just a little bit. Let's talk about because again, I can relate to your story a lot. But let's talk about what it was like for you as a kid. Like you went to elementary school and middle school and high school in Pittsburgh?
I did, yes.
Okay. And did you graduate then?
Yes, I graduated.
Okay. So,
however, to further add some fuel on top of my comeback story, I was kicked out of 3 colleges before I actually ended up graduating with 3 degrees. So.
Wow. Kicked out of 3 colleges?
Well, the first one wasn't really kicked out. I had a scholarship to a local college, Robert Morris, and I didn't keep my grades above a 3.0, so I lost the scholarship. Okay. So then I went to Indiana University of PA. I don't, if you know anything about Indiana, they'll take anybody. So they took me, partied my way out of that school. And then this is where I learned I was good at sales. I went to the University of Pittsburgh. I met a guy, I'll never forget his name, by the name of Dick Wood. And Mr. Dick Wood told me that he thought, based on our conversation, that Pitt should give me a full scholarship. And so they gave me a full scholarship. And the only stipulation was I had to go to class every day, right? Unless I was sick. First week I blew it off. He's like, look, you broke the deal. You're out. And that was it. So I busted out of 3 colleges in 3 years.
Oh my gosh, man. So you went what was it like for you growing up as a kid? You said your dad took off when you were how old? 7?
I think I was 7. I don't, it's kind of a little bit shady. I don't remember exactly everything, but, I remember I just never saw him again. And, my grandfather, thank God, bless his soul, man. He took over as a dad for me. And, if it wasn't for his influence in my life, I could have went a different road. Cause I have a little brother who's 5 years younger than me, and he went a completely different path. He still does drugs. He still does alcohol. He still gets arrested. I mean, he went from, I just don't care and I'll just do anything I want to. I just wanted to do something better with my life. I remember growing up and I didn't know what welfare was. I didn't know what food stamps were, but I did know that it felt weird that we got free stuff. I knew it felt weird that my mom didn't work. I knew it felt weird that, we would go to the store and we had coupons to pay for our food, but other people had money, right? And it just kind of made me have like a weird feeling, not like a bad, but it's just like, it shouldn't be this way. It was almost embarrassing, and I didn't know that it should be embarrassing.
But you did, so you didn't really though know what it was. Like you didn't realize back then what welfare was. Like,
no, I just thought that I didn't know what was going on. I just knew we were different, and I knew we were poor.
Right.
And then when I went to my grandparents' house, they were middle class. He was a middle class working man, blue collar. And I just felt so much more comfortable in a middle class environment,
Right.
Because me around middle class people who talked about educated things instead of like ridiculous things that my mother and her friends would talk about. And it was just like I was always striving to move up a level, right?
Yeah.
And a couple of the biggest wins of my life, and I was so glad my grandfather was alive to see them, was I was the first one to ever graduate from college in my family.
Wow.
And I was the first one to ever buy a house ever. And I'm still the first one to ever buy a house in my family. And it was a huge deal because I never thought I'd grow up and own a house or own a car, just because my mom never did. She was always getting free stuff and free apartments and free food. I was just, how am I ever going to make it if she can't,
Wow. Yeah. So, and for those of you who've never been to Pittsburgh, I highly recommend it. It's a beautiful city. So you see that, man, you grew up with, it sounds like it was a pretty tumultuous environment.
It was a little bit, but I'll tell you what, I can't complain because I had my grandfather and he was a rock. And I wasn't abused. I wasn't beaten. I always had food to eat. So, there's so many kids off in this world that were much worse off than me.
Yeah.
I was lacking pretty much love for my mother. That's what I was lacking.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, those things combined to cause me a lot of problems in my life in the future. I had massive abandonment issues, which led to bad relationships. I didn't know how to be a man. I saw my grandfather's influence when I was around him, but
yeah.
As I grew up, the only model I had when I became a father was to not do what my parents did. And that was all I had to start with,
Yeah.
And then the other thing was I knew my grandfather loved me and he always told me so. So I always did that for my kids. And to this day, my son's going to turn 20 in a couple of days. And every time I see him, I still hug him and kiss him. And he never even flinches because that's how it's been since he's been a baby,
Wow.
He will
awesome.
never feel that hurt of not, having somebody do that for you.
Yeah. Dude, that's awesome, man. And I'm the same way with my kids, my daughters. Like if there's a doubt about my love for them, then that's their problem. Because we go out of our way. But
Right.
so your grandfather obviously had a huge influence on you. You come out of high school. When did you join the Navy? Was it after college or after high school?
Yeah, it was that. So after I got kicked out of Pitt for the third college,
Yeah.
Here's how it happened. I drove to. My friends were like, "Look, you're not going to Pitt anymore. You can't live here for free." I took everything I had, put it in a black trash bag, and I drove to Erie where my girlfriend lived. I said, "Hey, can I live here? I'm homeless." And she goes, "All right." 2 weeks later, she says, "Hey, I'm pregnant." And
wow.
And I was like, okay. And I freak out because I didn't want my kid to be like me and not have a dad around. And I didn't know if she was going to keep it and not keep it.
Yeah, right.
Cut me out of her life. And so my first thing was, cool, let's get married, right? And so a couple weeks later, we're on a plane to Vegas and we're getting married.
Wow.
And it's the first plane ride I ever had in my life. And well, here's the sad part, right? So as soon as we get married, she's like, "I don't feel like you like me that much." And I was like, I don't feel like you like me that much either. She goes, "Cool." We were married for, I think 10 years and we never really liked each other that much. We kind of went to Vegas and got married because we just thought that's what you did when you had a kid,
Right. Dude, by the way, my wife is from Erie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Born in Cleveland, but raised in Erie. Yeah. So I mean, you're only a few hours from me. I'm right across the border. So you know, so you you were married for 10 years. Now again, back when did you join the Navy?
I joined the Navy in 1999. January of 1999, I went into the Navy.
So it was
Yeah.
after you got kicked out of the three schools, or after you graduated college?
It, it was after kicked out of three schools,
Okay.
after I got married. And then the recruiters wanted me to go to boot camp right away, and I said, "Look, I'm not going until my son's born." And so they literally 3 weeks after my son was born, I was in boot camp.
And Great Lakes.
In Great Lakes, yep,
Yeah.
it sure was.
Yeah.
And I was on snow shovel duty the whole time. It
Oh, was it snow? Was it that time of year?
was terrible, man.
Oh,
And they push ups in the snow, and oh, it was bad. Yeah, it was really. But it was a good time. I loved my Navy service,
yeah.
especially during 9/11. I mean, I was on one of the second ships to deploy after 9/11, and I'll tell you what, it was just such an honor.
Yeah.
I was so proud to be able to go out and just represent America and say, hey, we're not going to take this stuff, you know.
Wow.
And working intel the way I did was I could literally see the reconnaissance flights that our pilots would do, and I could see the bombs literally dropping on the heads of terrorists, and I could watch that.
Gosh.
Yeah, it was amazing. I love that job because part of my job was to locate the people who need bombs dropped on them and relay that message to the admiral. So it was awesome.
Wow. Wow. So you were wow. Okay, so I want to talk about you. So you went through Great Lakes Academy. It doesn't sound like, unless your grandfather, did you like live with him, or were you living with your mom, or how did that work?
Yeah, I lived with my mom, but I tried to stay with my grandfather every weekend that I
Okay.
could. I mean, I was with him as much as I could be.
Sure.
And looking back, and I said this at his funeral when I did his eulogy, like when I was born, he should have been going into these retirement years. I mean,
Yeah.
he was hard, and his job ultimately killed him. He died of mesothelioma because he got asbestos in his lungs from his job. And so he worked so hard. He would work weekends, and now looking back, he wasn't just working for him. He was working to pay my mom's bills. He was working to do all the activities that I did, right?
Right.
And I didn't appreciate that as a kid because I didn't know any better. So I mean, he literally lived two lives. He lived the life to raise his kids, and then he raised me and my brothers and my sister. And I just, there was no way I could ever repay him. And I tried when he was getting older and he was dying, I tried to repay him in ways. Some of the things I did were crazy. So for those who don't know, mesothelioma, it's lethal. You can't come back for it.
No.
So one thing I did was, I went to every single, specialist in the East Coast, and I took his records there. And then in Philadelphia, I almost got arrested one time because I snuck into a medical building. I went to the only specialist in the state of Pennsylvania, and I put his medical record down on the doctor's table with $5,000 cash on top. And I said, will you please put this to the top of his line? And he had his hand on the phone to call security because I shouldn't have been in the building. And the guy, Dr. Daniel Sturmer, I'll never forget his name. He had his eyes, and he said, I'll tell you what, I'll put him to the top of the line, but you donate this money to the Mesothelioma Association instead. And that's what I did. And, he did put it to the top of the line. He did call me back, and he couldn't help, but at least he tried,
Wow.
I tried so, looking back, maybe I should have just spent more time with him, but I was trying to save him rather than, just give up. And it was a really tough time because it was like I knew when he passed away, I was going to have this massive void in my life and I was going to go nuts. I already knew that I was going to have this psycho breakdown and I just didn't want to have that,
Yeah. So you graduated from the Naval Academy, Great Lakes Academy, which for those of you that don't know where that is, it's north of Chicago. So Chicago's really cold, and you go on up to Waukegan, and that's where the Eskimos live. I'm just kidding. Eskimos and sailors. So I remember my brother was in the Navy for 10 years, and he graduated up there, and I went up for his graduation. I remember how ridiculously cold it was and snowy, and so but anyway, so you Brian Hess is on here, a good friend of mine that lives in Pittsburgh. He wants to know what part of Pittsburgh you're in.
I live in West Deer near Tarentum.
Okay. So Brian's north. I forget where Brian. He's up north somewhere. somewhere. So my wife said, "What a wonderful show of love for your grandfather." That's true, dude. That's true. So in the Navy, where did you end up? Where did you end up after boot camp?
So after boot camp, I went to Pensacola for intel training.
Okay.
And I was there for a while because I don't know if a lot of people know this, but you have to get a massive security background check to do some of these jobs. Yeah. I had the equivalent background that I could have walked into the White House. That was the background check I had to have. So that background check literally took a full 12 months. And people were calling me saying, hey, like, 2 girlfriends from high school said, hey, the guys were investigating me. What the heck did you do? And I said, oh, I'm getting a background check. Yeah, they literally reached out and said, what's going on? So I was down there and, it was pretty cool. I was a guard at the main gate while they were doing the background check, and I would work from 4 to 8 a.m. every day. And I just went to the beach with my little boy afterward. It was a great life. Wow. Yeah. And once I was done there, then I was off to the fleet. And, it was great. I loved the Navy. You know, one of the things that I wish I could have done was I wish I could have just stayed in and finished up the 20 years. But like I said, you know, going home to my grandfather was much more important to me.
So how many years were you in the Navy?
8 total.
So listen, before I forget, thank you very, very much for your service, man. That's incredible.
Oh, you're welcome.
It's incredible. And I have so much respect for people in the military. So you ended up going back. Your grandfather ended up passing away, and you said you did the eulogy at his funeral.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. How tough was that for you?
Man, it was brutal. Did this before he passed away, my grandma gave me this big box of pictures from his whole life, and so I made this massive photo slideshow with his favorite music and. One thing I did to help my family heal is even though my family doesn't always get along, I had them all come over and help me pick out the pictures and and we had some good memories, you know. And what I did was I put it into a photo slideshow and then I gave a eulogy and I couldn't finish it, man. I broke down crying. And I still remember my son, he was just a little boy at the time. I told him, I said, stand by daddy because if I can't finish this, I need you to read this for me. And you know, you can see I'm emotional because I'm feeling this feeling. And you know, he took it over and he read it for me. He put his hand on my back, and he's always had the biggest heart. When his grandfather passed away, we were in a room where he had just had a stroke, and they had to take him off of a machine. He had his arm around his mom and his aunt, telling him it'd be okay, even though he was just a little boy. That's just always been his heart is, you know. I'm so proud of him.
Dude, that's freaking awesome, man. Holy crap! Stop! You're gonna make me emotional. I don't think I've ever cried on my own show, man. That's unreal. So wow, dude, that's powerful. So what happened at that point? Like, cause I want to kind of get to the point where, you know, everything did not go well for you.
Yeah, so you know, I'm just gonna be real brutally raw and honest with you guys. Yeah. You know, I'm not proud of a lot of my past, and I think that if I can tell the truth and others can relate to it because maybe they have similar instances, maybe they can relate. Along the way, I didn't like my wife very much, and she didn't like me, and I had a woman that I would see on and off for the whole time we were married, and for all I know, my wife did the same thing. I don't know. She may have, and this particular woman followed me from Virginia to Hawaii back to Pittsburgh, and we ultimately ended up getting married later, and I'll tell you about that.
Hold it, wait. You were with your wife, had your kids, one kid, just one?
I had one kid, and then we had a daughter after. Yeah,
so. And then another woman was following you around the country?
Yes.
When you moved with your family.
So, when I got out of school in Florida, I was sent to a ship in Virginia, and that's where I met her. And she was having the same problems with her marriage as I was, and you know, we kind of struck it up. And then I got transferred to Hawaii, and she's like, you know what, I'm not living life without you, so she moved to Hawaii too. Now the whole entire time we're not together, I'm telling her, look, I'm not leaving my family, I'm not leaving my wife because I have responsibilities as a father. And she's like, I don't care. Yeah, so we ultimately ended up getting married in the future too, and that's a little bit down the road. So along the way, while I was also doing that, I don't know, I forget where I got the idea, but I found a way to get TV shows that were never produced on DVD box sets. And so I started producing those and selling those online. So in addition to my Navy salary, I had this massive amount of money coming in from all these things I was selling online. And it was producing a great life. I was able to take my kids on awesome vacations. I was able to provide an amazing lifestyle. But ultimately that would come back to really bite me in the butt later, and I'll tell you about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
well, hey man, just keep now you got me. I'm hooked, man. Keep rolling. This is an unbelievable story.
Yeah. So my wife and I'll tell you what, she's a good woman. She's a great mother. She homeschooled our kids, when they were little. Honestly, we're just two different people. We didn't get along, and I was craving for love and affection so much because I didn't have it, and it just wasn't the kind of marriage that we had that. And that's ultimately why I did what I did. I'm not proud of it. To go back and do it again, I wouldn't do it. However, we had an okay life. The kids had a good childhood. And there did come a point where I was like, I got to get out of this. But I knew I couldn't divorce her in Hawaii because she was the kind of person that would have just put down roots and stayed there, and I would have never saw the kids again. So I got out of the Navy. We moved back to Pennsylvania. Grandpa passed away. And I had the meltdown that I thought I was going to have. And that meltdown included, I still remember the night it happened. I took my head and I rammed it through a door. Like literally it smashed through a door. Anger was raging out of me. I mean, I was probably the scariest guy in the world that night. I really was.
Wow.
In addition to that, yeah, I mean, I had severe relationship issues my whole life because I didn't trust anybody. And anytime somebody was ever nice to me, I would ruin that relationship by doing something to blow up the relationship. And looking back, I just couldn't understand, why does everybody treat me like this, right? And of course, it's always my fault. And I had a lot of issues in the Navy with authority. Right before I got out, I had made it all the way to petty officer first class. I was promoted extremely quickly because I was really good at my job. And I had a blow up on a chief, and she said something that hurt my feelings, and I screamed at her across the room. And I actually lost a rank before I got out of the Navy. Got locked down to the base for a month, and I had to be away from the kids for a whole month because I lost my temper like that. Right?
Wow.
So I was having, I was having all these things happen. My grandfather's dying. I'm juggling two lives, right? I have my wife. I have that I'm seeing. I'm trying to be a good dad. I'm trying to go to school and finish up my degree. And in the meantime, I have all these emotional, terrible things that are just going through my an idiot. By the grace of God, I didn't kill somebody or myself, And I remember I wanted the Navy to kick me out because I was so miserable.
Yeah.
I told them, I'm going to go get drunk and drive my car, and that'll force you to kick me out. And they said, no, you won't do it. They basically called my bluff, right? And they were just like, yeah, you won't do it. And I was trying anything I could to just get attention on, I didn't care what kind of attention. I just wanted some attention, right?
Right.
And so that whole thing happens, and I get out of the Navy, and I actually had a really good ending in the Navy. I ended up working for a colonel who was a really cool guy. His ancestors went back to the first freed slaves of the Civil War. His name was Colonel Jackson in the U.S. Army.
Wow.
And he and I we had a good relationship. He actually let me go and get LASIK done for my eyes. And I was also really good with Photoshop, so I actually made his command coin. So anytime he handed out a coin for the rest of his career, it would be the one that I designed for him.
Wow.
Which was really cool.
That's awesome.
And he knew I was miserable, and he knew I just wanted to move on in my life. And he said, listen, if you go get accepted to a graduate program, I'll sign paperwork to let you out a year early. And that's what he did. He let me out a year early. I was able to move on with my life, and then I moved back to PA, and that's kind of where the story picked up.
So you ended up back in PA. You got an honorable discharge by some sort of a miracle. Like screaming at a petty officer across the room is a good way to not have a long career in the Navy, probably.
Yeah, it was a terrible emotional blow up, and it's an excuse, but at the time I was going through some therapy to try to rein in these emotional. And this therapist particularly was having me talk to my dad at this time. I hadn't talked to him my whole life.
Wow.
And it was really grinding on me because the first time I had spoken to my dad since I was a little kid, he goes into how he's a Mormon and how he's going to pull me out of hell when I go to hell, and he's going to put me on his Mormon planet. And all he's talking about is his religion, right? And he doesn't care what my life, doesn't care if it. Now I'm just upset about this all the time, right? And I'm thinking, why am I upset about this? And obviously you want your dad to care about you,
Yeah.
And it appeared that he didn't. So, it's not really an excuse, but it came a breaking point in my life where I just didn't give a care anymore. I was just like, to everything. And that kind of culminated. And so once I had that blow up, they actually offered to give the rank back if I would have stayed in. I was just like, no, man, I'm gone. I mean,
yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
So okay. So you went back to PA, you had a blow up. What happened? Like because did you get a job? What were you doing for money? I'm sure the Navy didn't say, hey, we'll keep paying you forever.
Right. Yeah. So what happened was, intelligence work doesn't correlate well unless you work at DC,
Right.
And I considered working for the FBI because of my clearance and things like that, but it just didn't work out. It wasn't something I wanted to do. So, I really had no experience. And what I did was I kept on doing bootleg DVDs, and it was bringing in good money. I was bringing in $12,000, $15,000 a month with bootleg DVDs. In this very room behind me, it was full of DVD burners. And I had my little brother and his friends over here burning DVDs 24/7 on shifts. It's crazy.
Wow.
Most Christmases I'd probably have 200-300 orders for bootleg DVD sets, right? Wow. Now the problem with that was even though the money was good, I wasn't paying taxes on it because it was illegal.
Yeah.
In addition to that, I'm getting these degrees and I'm getting no experience. So ultimately when I lost that DVD business, I had no experience to go out and get a job because they're like, well, what have you done with your life? Well, I was in the Navy 6 years ago,
What have you been doing for the last 6 years, dude?
I ran an online business.
Yeah, doing what?
Right. Tell us, yeah. Right? And I tried to skirt around it and said I made websites, which I kind of did. And looking back, I was pretty damn good at it. I mean, I was good at making these sites to sell these DVDs. I was good at the SEO. I was good at the marketing. If I would have applied that to a legit business, I would have been off the charts amazing,
Right. So the DVD business eventually didn't work out.
It didn't work out because not because I didn't want it to. I kept on pushing that envelope. The reason it didn't work out was because credit card processing companies only will take so much risk. So when I was putting $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 through a credit card account a month and people were doing chargebacks and getting refunds, they were getting very nervous. So I was getting banned. Yeah. And ultimately I got blackballed from a merchant account and I just couldn't process money anymore.
Right.
It was like a drug addict at one point. So I was paying a bounty to a guy who had a merchant account. I said, listen, I'll give you 20% of all sales if you just let me use your merchant account. And he was like, all right. So every month or every week I was going to the bank, withdrawing 20% and giving him cash to keep the merchant account flowing. And by this time I was making very little profits. It was just enough that was paying the bills and barely making life tolerable. Right. But I didn't know what to do because I didn't have any other skills. And so ultimately I got into sales because I couldn't get a regular job that would pay me enough because I was too old to really climb the corporate ladder by this point. I couldn't start at an entry level job. I just couldn't pay the bills at that.
Right.
And I started just looking around and I started thinking, well, commissions pay well because I used to sell windows when I was in college. And when I make a sale, I'd make like $2,000. So might as well try it again,
Yeah.
And that's ultimately how I started on the path to where I am today because I got really, really good at sales. And then, things just kind of came together at certain points.
What were you selling? What'd you start selling?
After,
my life DVDs.
It's a series of really long, just crazy stories.
Yeah.
I had seat licenses, right? I had bought those with the DVD money.
You had a what?
Steelers personal seat licenses.
Oh, okay.
And so I sold those for $20,000. And I did something really, really smart with the $20,000. I took this $20,000 and I made 52 trips to Vegas. And I bet that money on baseball games. Now, I won a lot of money. I won 73% of the time.
Wow.
One day I lost the initial seed money on one bet. But for 2 years, I was just so bucking the system. I just did not want to get a real job. I just wanted to keep doing my DVDs. And so I was like, you know what? I found this betting system and I used it. And I made $70,000 2 years in a row betting on baseball. It was crazy, right? And so once that ran its course, I started looking for sales jobs and I actually got a life insurance license. And I still remember to this day, this guy interviewed me in a Starbucks. He rolls up in a white Mercedes, a big black guy that looks like the Notorious B.I.G. in a white sweatsuit. And I'm thinking, now listen, well, honestly, listen, this is where my, my prejudice is coming. I'll tell you that right now. I immediately judge this man as a drug dealer with a front business, right? and, and I sit down and I start talking to him, and man, he's the coolest guy ever. Yeah. And he goes, all right, I'll give you a chance. And I'm just like thinking, really? Is this even legit? And, I come to find out later that, he and I had a lot of similarities. He grew up in the Hill District of Pittsburgh, very poor. Yeah. And really it was just a matter that he just wanted to keep doing what he did. And, he became one of my best friends. His name is Troy Miles. He's one of the biggest insurance brokers now in the city of Pittsburgh.
Wow.
We became close because the guy that trained me at his insurance company, actually was showing me to do bad things. He was showing me how to rip off the company, how to rip off Troy. And I just didn't feel like that was right. And so I said, hey, Troy, I know I'm like way down in your downline here. Just want to let you know that this guy's teaching me to rip you off, and you might want to know about that. And that forged a friendship between us that never went away. Like he invited me to all of his personal parties. And I mean, here's a great story. So later in the story, I become suicidal, right? Like legit, I'm going to kill myself, gun to my head. I'm ready to do it. And I reached out to Troy one night, and Troy said, you know what? Don't do that. I'll pick you up. By this time, Troy had just bought a what are those really expensive cars called? Bentley. He had bought a Bentley.
Oh wow!
And
wow!
It was like a brand new Bentley, and he goes, "I'll pick you up." He picks me up in a Bentley.
Wow!
Takes me out to eat. And now Troy and I, we have a history of going to this place called Mad Mex. It's a local Mexican place.
Yeah.
Yet we always get wings when we go there. Why do we do that? I don't know. So he goes, eat as many wings as you want, drink as many drinks as you can drink. I know you're in a bad spot. I know you don't have any money. So I'm sitting there getting drunk off margaritas and eating that ledge. And he gives me a big hug, gives me a kiss, and tells me he loves me, and then puts me home. And I mean, these are like the angels that I was sent throughout my life, right?
Yeah.
Without Troy, that day I might have killed myself that day because I felt so alone. I really felt and here's the other thing too. I knew the insurance laws enough that knew that how long I had to keep an insurance policy so my kids would get the money if I killed myself. That's how twisted I was at this time, right? I was counting down the days that they would still get the money. So ultimately at the end, when I was like, I don't want to kill myself, I canceled all my insurance policies so my kids would be screwed if I did it. So it would stop me from doing it. And, I was putting all these roadblocks in place so I wouldn't do stupid things, even though I had a tendency to still want to do them at that time.
Wow. So you sorry, my internet's acting a little wacky here. So you got to a place where, and so back up a little bit. You were in this. I'm trying to think through this. So you started selling insurance, life insurance, and right. And it sounds like you were doing well.
I was doing okay. I wouldn't call it well. When I had my mind straight, I could sell anything. But I had all this chaos going in my life, so I would go up and down and up and down. And any good company would have just fired me for that, for my inconsistencies. But Troy didn't because he was a friend.
Wow. So, but you got to a place where it got real dark.
It did. It was really dark because my grandfather had passed. My DVD business was gone. I mean, I was on the verge of being homeless out on the street multiple times. I mean, it was getting really ugly. And it got to the point where people weren't going to lend me any more money. Friends were like, look, just get a job. And I was just like, everybody thought I was just lazy, not wanting to get a real job. The truth was I just couldn't get one. Like I went to Walmart with an MBA and I said to them, can you please make me a store manager? And they said, no, you can't do it. And I said, well, why? And they just wouldn't tell me. And I really think it was because I was just a whack job at the time. I honestly, probably came across, I was a crazy guy, right? We don't want to hire you. And quite honestly, I don't want to hire me either. And so, I mean, I desperately wanted to get a regular 9-to-5 job and stabilize my life, but I couldn't get a job to do that. So, I started selling life insurance. And I was door to door. I did anything it took, and, wow. Somehow, some way made ends meet. All the while, still trying to keep that DVD business afloat.
Wow, dude. So was there a point? I mean, because I know you said that you started becoming suicidal, like really suicidal, not just like thinking about it, but really like, okay, I'm doing this.
Well, that was a couple of years later. I married the woman that had followed me around the world. Yeah. And when we got married, it just didn't work out. We moved into the same house. We fought like cats and dogs. And quite honestly, she moved into the house I lived in my ex-wife with, right? I mean, what woman would like that, you know?
Yeah.
We had this mutual non-trust because we were cheaters married, right? We had a daughter come out of our marriage, which was great. And she's a great mother. She's been a great friend to me over the years, but it just did not work out living under the same roof. So we got divorced in less than 13 months, right? She moved out. She went to another place, not too far from me. And my life just kept on going down and down and down. And it finally, it culminated with, I felt like there was no way out. I felt like I was in an elevator shaft and I was banging my head every time I tried to get up the elevator. And I would work hard and I would try everything and it just would not work. And it was to the point where I was just like, I just want to die. The only way out of this thing is to die. And I went into that place a couple of times in over the course of a couple of years. And the only thing that kept me from it was, kids finding my dead body, or I would have done it.
Yeah. Wow, yeah. Man. Wow. So what was the turning point for you, man?
Well, let's fast forward a bit. So I have this history of getting into relationships with women, and then I have a tendency of ruining relationships by this point, right? Because of these emotional disorders that I have.
Yeah.
And I got into another relationship with a woman, and I mean, I basically looked at her as the person who was going to replace my grandfather to love me. I truly believed that my grandfather was the only human in this world who would ever love me. So this woman told me, I love you, and she would use it against me sometimes. If I ever leave you, no one will ever love you again. She did a lot of these very manipulative things to me.
Yeah.
Now, of course, I had my own issues in the relationship as well. I was a complete emotional wreck, right? And so we would be back and forth, but I wanted this to work so bad because I just wanted someone to care about me, right? Mm-hmm. So basically, when this whole relationship, came to a head and it came to an end, I mean, my life was bad. She actually said to me one time, just pull the effing trigger and get it over with. I'm sick of hearing you whine about it. I mean, that's the kind of person that she was to me sometimes, right?
Jeez.
And if she was saying that, the person that loved me, I guess I wasn't really worthy of being alive, right? So it came to a head, and I didn't want to die, though. I didn't want my kids to find that dead body. So I went to the VA since I was a veteran, and I went there and I said, hey, can you all just help me not want to kill myself? I said, can you put me through some tests to find out what's wrong with me and diagnose me with something so we can fix it? And they were like, dude, nobody comes here and asks that.
Right.
And I was just like, look, I can't live like this. If I'm going to live, I have to fix it, right?
Yeah.
And so I get there, and I had the best therapist in the world, Dr. Fabrizio, and I went to her for a couple of years, and she kind of walked me through why I felt the way I did, why I acted the way I did, and I didn't trust her at first, and she pushed me to the brink of I quit therapy a few times.
Wow.
But after therapy, she told me that I was the only person that ever had come through her office that had a dedicated goal and had actually achieved that goal and graduated from it. And so one of the cherished possessions that I have, and I keep it on my dresser so I see it every morning when I wake up, is a certificate that she made for me that said I graduated from her acceptance therapy.
Wow.
So literally what I learned to do was I learned to look at a situation and say, is it really what it appears to be, or is it my emotional side screwing with me from my memories conjuring up from my past, right? And now my brain is automatically able to do that. And since I've graduated from her therapy, I have not had an emotional blow up on anybody. I've not ruined a relationship. I mean, I'm a normal person for all intents and purposes, right? Which is awesome. It's huge for me because before I used to take everything personal. And if you said something to me that I didn't understand, I wouldn't ask you to clarify. I would just say, I hate your guts, and I would delete you and block you. That's
right.
Just how and I've not done that since. And everybody in my life just looks at me different. They're just like, how did you do that? Right.
Yeah.
Now I must also add to this that, I had a huge support network at church while I was going through this.
Yeah.
I was praying to God, begging God, please just fix my life, right? Yeah. I was listening to messages from Joel Osteen in the car all the time.
Love Joel Osteen.
He had these positive messages, man, and it's just like every day the right message would shot up for me. It was just like I needed to hear that today,
Yeah.
And so while I was going through all this, I feel truly blessed. I mean, my life literally went from I truly want to die, and if my kids don't find my dead body, to I have a lot to live for, And so that turned around, and it led me into a new career. I started selling solar. Like you asked about the thing in the background there. I became the top sales rep at Solar City for a couple of months.
Wow.
And it was awesome. And one of the things I was praying for was I was praying for some confidence. Give me some confidence that I can do something with my life, God, please. And that there was, right? So now I knew I could sell because I could sell anything at this point. I was a beast. I was a machine.
Wow.
Well, that was right before the end of that relationship I told you about with the abusive woman, right?
Yeah.
And when that relationship happened, again, I had this downward spiral, crash and burn. It was terrible, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't as bad as the time before, but it was bad enough that, I stopped working and, here we were. So that kind of brings us up to like 2016, right? And
but there was something you said a minute ago. I'm going to have to think about it now because I wanted to ask you something. I just didn't want to interrupt you. I forget what it was. Bill Have is on here, by the way. Bill, Bill's the one that said I needed to interview you. So I'm so grateful for that. So you man, you went through a lot. Oh, I know what I wanted to bring up. Because I went through years of therapy myself in my teenage years. I found myself drinking quite a bit as a teenager and even younger, and went through a lot of stuff. So I went through years of therapy. I'm actually Facebook friends with my therapist today. Like she hit me up years later, and but here's the thing. I have a lady that I've been trying to help that her son actually did commit suicide, a veteran. And it's torn her world apart. And so, I know there are 22 vets a day on average, and those are from the states that actually report it. Right. The average is around 22 or so, and it's sad. A day, that's every day in this country. It's unbelievably sad and unfortunate. Your situation, however, had less to do with being a veteran and more to do with everything else. And I want to take my hat off to you and congratulate you and acknowledge that you actually said, wait a minute, I can't do this to my kids. I got to figure this out, and you reached out for help.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, it was not easy to do, right? Because I was a very prideful person at the time.
Sure.
I was I was a big alpha male, right? Typical bro, and
right.
It wasn't easy for me to do that, but I'll tell you what, the love I have for my kids and the desire for me to see them have happy lives overrides everything else in my life. There's nothing in this world that I wouldn't do to have my kids be happy. And I knew if I was going to be their dad for the rest of their lives, then I had to straighten my act up. I just had to, because I really had no authority to give my kids any advice. I mean, everything they had seen from me up until this point, I put on a good show for them, but kids are smart. They could see in the background what was happening. They could hear the fights I had with their mom. They knew the emotional outbursts that I had. They had to see me become a man that could, be reliable. So I could be a reliable father figure in their life for the rest of their life.
Right.
And, my daughter's 15 now. My oldest daughter is 15. And she recently told me that she was proud of me. She told me that she noticed such differences in me. And we have such a great relationship, man.
Wow.
Like, people say, oh, the teenage years are so horrible. My daughter is, I wouldn't call her a little princess, but she's just such a kind-hearted, just amazing person, and I have no issues out of her at all. We talk about everything. We talk about career in the future. I mean, I'm just so blessed that my mistakes from the past didn't lead to my kids being wrecked like I was as a child,
Yeah.
And I'm just so thankful for that.
So again, and somebody on here says suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in the U.S. and one of 3 that is on the rise, and that is so unfortunate. I've been there. Okay, I've been there with the gun in my hand. I've been there with the bottle of pills in my hand. I may have made some slight attempts as a child, and I have 16 years of sobriety, over 16 and a half years sober today, and by the grace of God, man, and I'll tell you that my pride and denial, right? Because first you have to say, hey, there's a problem here, right? Like I have a problem. So denial is unbelievably strong, as you know. But the more important part is actually asking someone for help is so freaking difficult, because for some reason we're programmed to believe that that's a sign of weakness.
Right.
And that's not a sign of weakness. That's actually a sign of strength and intelligence, that you would say, I got to get some help. And so you did, man. And so props to you. I want to acknowledge that, because that's freaking huge.
I also have to say, thanks to the VA health system, because I know they get a really bad rap, but they took care of me so well. Like, if I had a breakdown and I needed to talk to my therapist, like, they would put me through right away. I had no issues at all with the VA. And I know a lot of people do, and I'm not making excuses for them.
Yeah.
But I mean, they helped me so much along the way. Like, when I was broke and I had no money, they pulled a tooth for me for free. You know what I mean? It was little things along the way that really got me going. And the VA has treated me so well after, my service.
Dude, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. So you did all this. You the DVD business, the bootleg DVD business, I might add.
Betting on baseball.
The what?
Betting on baseball for 10 years.
Betting on baseball. You're you're a rock star, man. So here you are doing all this. You get some help. You start coming, it's like it, and that's the other thing is, I remember when I first got sober, I remember I'd see people like pull up in these meetings I went to in a 12-step group, and they'd pull up and driving Mercedes and Porsches and Ferraris, and I was like, I want that. That's why I'm sober. Like, when do I get my Ferrari? Like, what? Right? Like, and I want it now. Like, not next decade, now. But everybody's like, time takes time. You got to do the work. You got, So let's fast forward a little bit, and we're coming close to the end of the hour. So I want to kind of fast forward here a little bit and say, number one, props to you, man. But at some point you decided to start your own business, like not like a legitimate business, right?
I did. Well, as early as January of this year, I was still floundering around doing different sales jobs, right? However, the difference was I was getting very good at sales. And here's where it all changed. I wanted to be even better than I was. So I started looking at the psychology of why I was good at sales. And then I started looking at more. So I started listening to subliminal frequencies while I was sleeping and while I was driving in the car. And when I did it, the same pattern over and over again, I sold, I think, 25 flooring jobs in a row earlier this year. And then I tested it. I tried to not sell one. And what happened is the person I said, nah, this isn't a good fit for you. They said, no, I can get the money. My brother will pay for it. The brother calls, gives me the credit card. I'm like, oh my God, this works, right?
Wow. And
I started getting deeper and deeper into it. And along the way, I always had a knack for lead generation because I generated my own leads for solar.
Yeah.
And I have friends on Facebook who were just making 10, 15, 20 grand a month selling marketing services and leads. I was like, man, I can do that. Legit business. And I started getting a little bit of reviews, and it just kind of took off from there. And really what propelled that was me digging deep into why am I having success. And then I finally figured it out that it was all mindset. It was all brain power. And I was able to literally control my future once I learned that.
Wow. And what kind of programs were you studying?
It was just, at first it was just YouTube videos. It would be like 5 different people saying positive things in my ear at the same exact time. Blah, 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 blah. And I would share it with friends. And because I was posting this on Facebook, you can even look back on it. And everybody was like, how are you doing so well? And I'm like, because I'm doing this. And it would be like, blah, 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 in my ears. But it got through, right? Yeah. It was actually making me so confident. And it was making that turn into reality. And I would sell every single deal when I would do that. And then I just started looking at how our thoughts really controlled our destiny, right? And I would only think positive thoughts. And since I've started getting down that path, I have not had a bad day since. I'm probably going on 10 months without a bad day. There is not one thing in this that gets me down. I stay in a happy, good spot. And this isn't some fake stuff. People are like, I just want to be happy. I am happy all the time. And I have a lot to be grateful for. I'm not dead.
Yeah.
I mean, damn, come back from a lot of crappy stuff. I have 3 beautiful, healthy kids. And I have a great future, right? So I have a lot of reasons to be happy. But in addition to that, even if I had a bad day, I found a way to just dismiss the bad and say, I'm just going to choose to be happy. And once I chose to be happy, every single thing I do turns to gold. Everything. It's just amazing.
Dude, that's awesome. So let me ask you this. What do you think it is, because this show's about helping people break through, right? And there are lots of people in this world, man. I mean, lots, and you know this, that are not choosing to be happy. They're choosing to stay stuck, right? I do some coaching, and a lot of people that I've worked with in the past, I realize that they almost want and not there's a lot of people out there that really just want people to listen to their complaints. They don't actually want to change.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I was that guy for a while.
Right. What do you think it is that keeps most people stuck there?
For me, when I was stuck in that area, it was lack of hope, lack of belief, lack of belief that anything that I do could possibly change. Because remember, I said I felt like I was in an elevator shaft, right?
Yeah.
And I did truly believe at a certain point that no matter what I did, it wouldn't matter. It was still going to suck forever. And I think people get on that carousel of, I tried something, it didn't work. I tried something, it didn't work. And then they're just like, you know what? Screw it. I give up. And unless you have that lucky break or that friend or that therapist or somebody that can intervene and lend a hand and say, hey, it doesn't have to be like this for you. That's how people get stuck, And I was fortunate that I had people lend a hand to me a few times. I had Troy. I had a therapist. I had a couple of friends who didn't leave me. I had a lot who did.
Yeah.
Almost all of them did, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
The person who's been most supportive of me throughout the whole ordeal is actually my ex-wife who followed me around the world. She's we don't always get along, but no matter whatever has happened with me, she has always been supportive of me. She's never abandoned me. And, that was always my biggest fear in life. Someone was going to abandon me like I was abandoned as a child. And,
right.
So I think that people stay stuck because they don't believe that there is a chance for them to get better. And that's where the next phase of my life I really want to come in is I want to find those people and I want to link up with other people. I want to find those people and I want to say, hey, I've been there myself and I found a way out and your way is not going to be the same way as my way, but we'll find you a way because there always is one. And, I'm not there yet. I'm just kind of in the phases where if I find a person in that spot, I'll talk to them and I'll try and help them the best I can.
Yeah.
But I would like to somehow formalize that in the future and find a way to actively seek these people to help them out,
Yeah. Well, dude, I think that, my personal opinion is the more you can get on Facebook Live, which is the new TV, and share your story and be the transparent Russ that you've been today, that audience, as you already know, we attract whatever it is we want to attract. Like you just got to put out the right vibe. So I think that'll happen for you, man, for sure. But and I ask this of every single guest I have on the show, and I'm going to ask you, if somebody called you up and they said, dude, it's falling apart, man. The wheels are coming off the bus. Like I am at this place where I can't pay my electric bill. My car was repossessed last week. They're shutting the electric off tomorrow. They're I'm losing everything and I don't know what to do. I'm at the end of my rope. I can't figure it out. And and I know that it starts right there. Right. What would you say to that person in that moment when they don't have 2 pennies to rub together, can't pay their bills, don't know which way to turn? You've been there, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So what would you say?
If they were local, I'd pick them up and I'd take them to go get some tacos. Yeah. And I would take that person out and I would force them to have some fun. Because that was the number one thing when I was going through all this crap is if I had some fun and I could get in a positive state of mind, I could feel like it's not that bad, right? Yeah. So anything that I could do to make a person feel like it's not that bad, I'll tell them a joke. I'll tell them a funny story. I'll share a stupid YouTube video with them. Yeah. Because more than anything, I'm not going to be able to bail you out of your financial situation probably. And even if I could, you'd be right back in it because that's just what you are in that situation.
Yep.
I can do is I can help you with your mindset today, and I can help put a smile on your face, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that is so crucial, because a lot of people, when you're down like that, they're like, you know, when I was suicidal and I told people, they would say, oh, it's not worth it. Don't do it. Man, that didn't affect me. However, the people that would make me laugh, they would tell me, just a silly joke, that was helpful to me, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Dude, that's so, but I know that deep in your heart and soul, it's become your primary, or one of your primary things is you want to help other men who are going through the crap. You want to help them come out of it and reach some of because you shared with me what you made last month in gross income, which is unbelievable. Like, it's truly amazing. And I know there's some, and I'm not asking you to share that with everybody. I wouldn't do that, but like, you know, you're killing it now, like really killing it.
I am.
Yeah. And
your internet connection's a little slow there.
Yeah, my internet's, I live in the middle of nowhere, so I've just accepted that it's acting wacky sometimes. So, but you're killing it, right? You're absolutely killing it.
Yeah. I mean, I went from on May 24th, $80 to, I'll just tell you, last month I brought in $17,600.
That's incredible, dude.
17, and it's like, I gotta pinch myself here. Are you kidding me? Because at that time I couldn't even afford to buy my daughter a birthday present, right? And now I'm bringing in $17,600. And you know what all that did it was me being positive. And I just went out with a positive mindset. And all these great things that are happening in my life were because I got positive and I stayed that way. And I know it sounds way too simple. I know that it sounds way too simple, but I'm just asking people, give it a shot, be happy, and see what happens, you know?
So let me ask you this. If let's say I'm going to be the devil's advocate for a minute and say, dude, you know what, man, you can believe all that happy, positive stuff that you want. I think you're full of crap and you're living in denial still.
Right.
What would you say? Because there's haters, dude. There's haters.
I understand. You know, I'd ask him to give it a shot, right? because you know, I went through that phase too, where I saw people around me, like my friend Troy at the insurance company. I told you. Yeah. At one, I was so negative. He had to kick me out of his business and tell me to not come back because I was bringing other people down.
Wow.
He had agents in his company said they wanted to punch me in the face and beat me up because I was such a negative person.
Wow.
And he said, Russ, I'm not trying to abandon you, but you can't come near my company because you'll ruin
it. Wow. Holy moly, dude.
And that was a, you know, and I should have been a slap in the face, but it wasn't. I kept on being negative. So yeah, I would invite you to just try looking for positives and things, right? And also be humble, because when I was first starting out this business that's driving all this cash now, I would go out and I'd say, hey, can I do your Facebook ads for you for $50? And would you give me a review if I do good? And they said yes. And I did it again and posted it on social media and did it again and again and again. And eventually I got a following, and eventually I made a character of myself called the Lead King.
Yeah.
And as soon as I did the Lead King, things started to take off, because now everybody knows I'm the Lead King. I provide quality service. I provide quality leads. And now I have a little bit of a following, and it's really cool. And that's where a lot of that money came from last month, because a lot of my followers on Facebook bought my Black Friday deal. I mean, $9,300 over Black Friday weekend. And the vast majority of that was from people who followed me on Facebook.
Yeah.
And by the way, thank you, everybody, because you made me have a great month. Thank you so much.
Dude, you're awesome. And I love your humility. I just love that. And I think that there's going to come a day very, very soon that you're doing $17,000 a day, and you're gonna go, I can't, like, this is how's this even real? Like, so, and I'm looking forward to continuing to build a friendship with you, and you know, if I can help you in any way, I absolutely will. So, you know, congratulations for what you've achieved so far in life, man. It's incredible. You've overcome some rough odds. So, how can everybody follow you?
They can come and just friend me on Facebook. I'm Russ Ward. You can check out my Facebook page. It's called The Lead King Russ Ward. And then if you want to check out my website, it's called theleadking.net.
Love it.
Yep. But honestly, man, I'm more about building relationships. Just come friend request me. I want to talk to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can help most businesses, right? Unless they're broke and they can't afford you.
I can. And the reason is because I invested a lot of that money I made into myself. I went through an academy by a woman named Kat Howell. She's probably like the top internet marketer trainer that I could find.
Yeah.
And I'm her training all the way, and I have her support and her network. So literally any business that I don't personally know how to do, I can reach out to Kat Howell's network, and she has an expert that will join my team. So
Wow.
I literally have the ability to help any business and give them top quality service.
That's awesome, dude. That's awesome. And we have some similar things that we do, but not exact. So that's awesome, man. I think you and I are going to probably end up doing some work together, and I'm excited about that. So, Russ, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for taking the time to come on the show, and thank you for your service. Thank you for your transparency and honesty and openness. I just love it, man.
Thank you. And thank you so much for giving me a platform to share my message, because that's one of the things I really want to do with my life. And I know people with an audience like yours, I can get it out there. So thank you. Thank you to you as well.
Yeah. Well, hey, man, it's my honor. So thank you to everyone who shared this out. And if you didn't share this out, you still have the opportunity to redeem yourself. And if you're not going to share this out, shame on you. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm not shaming you. But thank you guys seriously for watching. Thank you to everybody who shared. Russ, once again, thank you for taking the time and coming on the show. And maybe we'll do a follow-up with you here in 6 months and see how things are going.
That'd be really cool. All right.
Awesome.
Have a good Christmas, everybody.
Awesome. Yes. Yes, definitely. Merry Christmas. But I'll be back tomorrow. So thank you, Russ. Appreciate you, man.
Thanks. Have a great day.
All right. You too. Stay on Skype if you would. All right. We'll see you guys. Have a great day.